we are in the presence of a celebrity right now. This is
We are.
She did the Super Bowl commercial with Bill Murray and Jeep.
That's it right there.
This is it. This is the one that started it all.
You planned that.
No, I didn't, but yeah, that's cool.
Could we be in line for something funny to come out of the mouth?
Just might happen. What a little cute.
She's the best.
Everyone deserves to feel their best. Everyone deserves to move their best and not have pain.
I'm a little upset that Ben got like 2 inches taller because he's already tall, dark, and handsome enough.
Culture is something we think about like all the time at Streakies. You know, we're all coming from different cultures.
Our comments have exploded
through the roof.
So there you go. It's Monday, 2:00 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which means
You're watching Lancaster Connects.
that's right. Time for Lancaster Connects. Good to be back. It's been a busy weekend, busy week here at the store. Thank you for that. Our wonderful Gardeners Mattress and More customers, where we broadcast Lancaster Connects from. It is spring. It's spring in Lancaster, which means a lot of changes, a lot of cleaning, a lot of events, a lot of things. And one of the things that we have going on is our spring cleaning. So I lost count, Ben. I tracked it about with $138,675, and that's when I stopped. At $138,676 worth of inventory. I'm like, okay, I just can't take it anymore. That's a good enough number to put out there and promote. That shows we have a lot and we want to sell it for a little. And so you get at least half off all those mattresses. So that means we're sacrificing about 70 grand or more in an opportunity, I guess you could say. But every one of those mattresses tells a story of making a customer happy, bringing something in that didn't quite work. It's a floor model. It's a demo. It's got a little scuff, but it could be yours to love and enjoy at home. And so our spring cleaning sale has kicked off in full force.
And it should be two points to make there. The reason for the discount, like you said, scuff, damage, whatnot, the product is perfectly fine. It's as durable as any brand new mattress that anybody else purchases here. It's cosmetic stuff. You know, floor models aren't perfect, for example, or a mattress might have gotten a little scuff coming off a truck.
Yeah.
Physically, the mattresses are perfectly fine to sleep on. And the other point, 50% off is a great deal. It's not the fake 50% off.
Oh, it's a real deal 50. Yeah.
It's the real deal 50. So you'll see a lot of 50% advertising in our industry. A lot of our competitors and chain stores do 50% off marketing, but all they're doing is taking a fake inflated price and calling it half off, right?
Yeah.
This is not that at all. All the products have our prices on them, our everyday low prices, and it's 50% off of that figure. So in some cases, it's legit, like well below our cost.
We've got a handwritten testimonial to that effect about our pricing and how at the time, I could say it now because they're long out of business, but one of our customers worked at the time at Wolf Furniture,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
and our pricing was more competitive and more value driven than the pricing there, but more so for the employee,
Right.
which was just really wild.
Right.
And so anyway, not to knock Wolf Furniture, but we literally have that testimonial over in our one of many binders where we get such things, and it's over there somewhere. But yes, we have a great event going on. So look, if it's time to invest in something new for yourself, great opportunity. Really, the guest beds, it's a great opportunity there. If you need something for your kid, we have things there as well. So feel free to reach us, call us, text us. You can call and text us at 717-299-6228 and let us know what you need. And we'll let you know if we have it, see if it's a fit.
Look at us with the texting.
That's right. It's like us. Yeah, it's 2024. We're here.
That's right.
We're here. So we've got a good show this week. It's I didn't know this, but until we prepared for our show, but Wednesday, is that right? No, tomorrow. Tuesday. Got my dates messed up. It's National Agriculture Day.
Did not know that.
Pretty big day here in the region where we still grow a lot of things and produce a lot of things. And so we're happy to have our guest on. Guess it's time to bring Jason on.
But let's bring him on.
That's right. We always say we like to try to cut the banter to 6 minutes or less. And we just did
pretty good. We went on football to talk about.
What clock were you looking at?
Oh, this one down here.
That's right up there in red.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Jason, Welcome to the show, Jason Stone, owner,
Jeff, Ben.
farmer. What do you call yourself over there at the Productive Peasant Farm? What is the official title?
If I want to sound fancy, I'm the executive director of farm operations and sales. If I'm talking to anybody face to face, I'm the owner and farmer guy.
Yep. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So every day you got your hands down in it.
Just about. We're just getting started for this season. Just got some peas in the ground a couple days ago, so we're getting back at it slowly but surely. It'll ramp up real quick.
Yeah, so I drive an old classic. I guess classic now. It kind of sounds silly. Still sounds silly to say it, but I drive a '96 F-250 crew cab truck, diesel, and I use that to tow our camp trailer and everything. But this weather is pretty tricky right now because I had it on a block heater where you plug it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Diesel trucks are the original plug-in car. I like to kind of joke. But I hid that away last week because we were at this glorious weather of 70.
70, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's it like right now, this time of year, balancing in Pennsylvania, this up and down? What's that do to what you plant and what you put in the ground?
Well, yeah, most every farmer would like to get their stuff in as early as possible so that they have something to sell as quickly as possible. And so you're always trying to read the weather, and you might look at a 7 or 10 day forecast and see what's coming up and say, okay, if it's going to be like this, maybe now's the time to go. And then you can have a stretch like we've had recently over the last 2.5 weeks where it was nice and warm and might have seemed like a perfect time to get going, and then all of a sudden you get this cold snap. And most years I would have put a bunch of stuff out by now, like salad greens and stuff. We have a few kind of DIY high tunnels that they get the job done in terms of keeping things warmer, even in cooler temperatures. Like if it gets down to about 27, 28, it can still generally keep like salad greens and stuff like that going. But as luck would have it, like we just had our first child a couple months ago. We had a little girl, and that adds a whole new dynamic to managing your time. And so this year I didn't actually get to putting things in when I would have. I normally have a rough plan to start around March 5th in those tunnels, and it just didn't get done. And I was kind of kicking myself during those warm days, kind of thinking, man, I should be out there and I should get that stuff in the ground. And, looking at it now, it's like, had I done that, everything would have been germinating right at the point as we're going to get this next snap. And so I kind of lucked out by just kind of holding off. On our farm, it's not too big a deal if something like that, if I had planted and things got hurt by a cold snap, it wouldn't have, it would have just meant that, I went through some seeds that, didn't come up to anything, but that's kind of smaller potatoes in the long run. So we would have just started over, and we would have said, yeah. So we would have started over and just said, okay, well, we'll have something to sell 2 weeks later than we hoped. But yeah. So
yeah. Well, we had your little daughter on the screen, Clara, I believe I saw her name is. So
yes,
I love the little clothing, little sprout. I love that. That's cute.
Yeah, she's got all sorts of veggie and fruit themed clothing that family and friends bought for her. She's got a couple that have pictures of carrots and beets, and it says, "I love my roots." And she's got summer hats with cherries and strawberries, and onesies with grapevines and all sorts of cute stuff. So
yeah,
that's cool.
So hopefully that portends well for the future, and she'll decide that she'd like to help out at some point. I made a joke to my wife before she was born and said, as soon as she can grasp my finger, I'm going to have her out there picking cherry tomatoes. Yep. And within 5 minutes she was on the bed, and I went over to her and she grabbed right a hold of my finger, and I thought, oh, I don't know if she's quite ready yet, but
Get her outside. Yeah.
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 Yeah, just so you know, I appreciate the use of the vocabulary term portend.
Proper use of
The
portend.
proper use of Ben attempted that a few weeks back,
That's it.
and so
That's
it's the second time it's been used here on the show in the last month. And
But first time properly.
appreciate the proper use because
every now and then I like to throw in like a $16 word.
Yeah.
Try
Yeah.
to impress
My version lost us money, I think.
indicate and signify. That's I don't believe that's
That is not how I used it. I don't
That
remember
is
what
all
it was. I'm sure
not-
Chris can
yeah.
find it, right?
yes. Yeah.
Hey, Jason, I want to go back to National Agriculture Day. That's tomorrow. I think we determined. What does that mean? And what are your first memories of agriculture or working on a farm or being involved in growing produce?
Yeah. Well, what does it mean? Hopefully, it's a day for everyone because no one, I don't think, lives on meat alone. I think you end up with scurvy if you do something like that. Well, I guess there's the carnivore's diet. I don't know, but most of us do eat vegetables in some form or another, and fruits and all sorts of other.
I mean, even if you
types
love
of
it,
produce and
steak, you still need rosemary to flavor it up and
Right.
in the
right,
pan. Right? Like you still
and
need
that's
that.
and hey, I mean, raising livestock is agriculture too, right? I have my
Yeah.
produce I'm in like my little produce bubble, but hopefully it's a day for folks to just take a second and maybe reflect on the hard work that's going on behind the scenes. I mean, we have, in a way, a lot of advantage in our contemporary lifestyles where we can go to stores and throughout the year, you can always depend on there being bell peppers there, this, that, and the other at the grocery store. And so it can make it look like the stuff just kind of appears, and
Sure.
it's just there and it's always available. And there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And over time, as our society has kind of moved away from self-sufficiency and having home gardens for a lot of people, the kind of the knowledge and understanding of what's going on behind those scenes is reduced. So hopefully it's a day where folks can take a couple seconds and just recognize and hopefully have some appreciation for all the hard work and passion that's going into this all over the country and all over the world. And then your second question was, growing up, what was my exposure to agriculture?
Yeah, and kind of tying into National Agriculture Day, your appreciation for growing crops.
Yeah. So I was exposed to I grew up in a very rural area in upstate New York, tiny little town called Victory. We had 2 mechanics and 1 flashing red light in our town. I mean, my mom liked to say, if you blinked as you were driving through it, you'd miss it. And it was mostly a corn and soybean area. And that never really struck a chord with me. I mean, we had some farm stands spread out here and there. We had a very small garden in the summertime, but it just never grabbed my attention that much growing up, oddly enough. And then I had gone off to college and wanted to be a professor. By my sophomore year, I was majoring in political science, and I thought, I want to do this for a living. I want to teach, and I had some really great professors that really kind of took me under their wing, and I really got passionate about that. And so I decided I was going to go on and get a PhD. And halfway through the PhD process, I just kind of went through this big change in terms of my outlook on life and what I wanted to do with it. And I had my first exposure to a farmer's market. I was in Bloomington, Indiana. And there was just this beautiful outdoor market. And I saw some of these farmers who were selling things I had never even heard of before or seen before, these really beautiful things that were just fresh. And I just kind of started getting interested in it, and I went and visited a couple farms, and I was going back and forth. I'm like, do I finish this degree? Do I not? Is it even realistic to jump out of this and try to go into farming? I've never heard someone say that's the ticket to financial ease. But over time, it just grew and grew. And by the time I finished the degree, I realized I really didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And so I came back to Lancaster. We had moved out here a couple years before I finished the degree. And then I went back at the very end to finish up what I was doing, and then came back here, and I just made this decision that I was going to get a job, even if it was part-time, a few nights a week or something on a local farm, and see if there was really something there for me. Because I also knew a lot of people can kind of romanticize farming, and then once you start getting those backaches, it's like, maybe this, this isn't all rainbows. But I took right to it. And so I took a few years just to kind of get some more experience and do some more planning, and then just jumped right into it. So, my appreciation for growing, I don't know, I really have a lot of respect for those who put everything they have into this work, and who show up to market really having crafted like a really beautiful kind of display to just kind of show like it's not just like celery and potatoes, you know what I mean? Like, wait, there's just this wild diversity of really delicious stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is not in your typical grocery store. I mean, I always do my little test when I go to a supermarket. Every now and then I just go over and I rip a little leaf of parsley off, and it never tastes like anything, it's like, all right, well,
So are you reporting here on Lancaster Connects Live for the first time that our food maybe not as healthy as it could be? Is that what we're saying?
That I may be saying that. I'm certainly saying it may not be as flavorful as it should be.
Yeah. I never considered that.
Yeah,
and I grew up on farms, but I never considered that.
It's the flavor profile can deplete pretty quick. But the other thing is, a lot of the produce that's grown in supermarkets, and I don't want to like get into like bashing like big farming or something. Like farming is too difficult a profession as it is, I think, to be like locking ourselves in little cliques and corners and pointing our fingers at each other and saying, well, you shouldn't do that, and then they point back and say you're an egghead. Like, if you're selling big volumes wholesale, you're selling it by weight. So you want your truck to weigh as much as it possibly can, and you want to produce as much as you possibly can per plant. As it works out, typically speaking, the varieties that produce the most or produce the quickest or hold up the best are not the most flavorful. And so you have this trade-off. And so and then there's also other practices, like most tomato growers that are shipping nationwide have to pick their tomatoes early, because if they're nice and ripe and soft, they're not going to survive the trip. And so they're picked early and green, and then in the trucks they have like a kind of gas that oftentimes will ripen those tomatoes on the road, so that by the time they hit the shelf, they're nice and red. But when you cut into them, there's no juice, and there's a lot of times there's no flavor. It's like, I recently was talking to my dad, and he's like, I got a tomato from the store and I might as well have eaten the sole off the bottom of my shoe. And
I mean, I knew in the example of green tomatoes, like I knew you picked them and green, and then they would ripen, but I didn't know about the gas part. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's what every company does, but yeah, it's kind of like, so there's a trick. If you buy an avocado is not ripe, you can put it in a little brown paper bag with a banana, and the peel gives off a natural gas that helps to ripen it faster. And so it's whatever that like natural gas is, they have these trucks that they can like pump that into the actual trailer while the tomatoes are being transported. And so they'll get red, they'll soften up a bit. But when you speed things up like that, it's just the flavor profile just doesn't really develop. And a lot of times the most flavorful varieties just don't produce as much per
So,
plant.
so what I've learned so far, I mean, if you're a kind of an at-home chef and you fancy yourself to like enjoy making dishes with fresh ingredients, but you've largely just gotten those from the supermarket, the challenge might be go to a farmer stand, maybe where you take your goods or your goods arrive at. And if not for anything, just switch out item for item. And
Yeah,
you're probably going to have a more flavorful dish, is what I'm gathering.
almost guaranteed. Almost
Yeah.
guaranteed. Now there are smaller stands that they might grow some of the same types of varieties that aren't necessarily the most flavorful, but almost guaranteed because they're almost certainly going to be fresher. They'll taste better if they're picked just shortly before you buy them. And yeah, I mean that was the experience I had. I mean, I didn't get into cooking with a whole lot of like fresh picked produce until I was in Indiana, and I was 28 years old or something like that, and it was just kind of like this eye-opening experience. So yeah, I mean it's worth an experiment, just to give it a shot. Take a meal that you typically make fairly often and you really love and you know what to expect from it, and then go get all the ingredients from your local farmer, including including the protein if it's a meat dish or something like that, and see what difference it makes.
Yeah.
You might just be hooked right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask you a question about the start of Productive Peasant Farm, because it's recent. But on that note of local protein, Ben and I here at the store, we once a year get a whole beef cow. I always find it funny that I quantify it as a beef cow.
What other cow would it be?
But I feel if I say we get a cow, sometimes people think like we just park it out back and it eats the grass out back of the store.
And you milk it. Yeah.
Right. I think if I say beef cow, it kind of infers that or portends. It signifies that we're getting a cow that's been slaughtered and portioned out. But yeah, local Millersville grown, right? Millersville?
Yeah. Down that way.
Millersville grown local beef. And boy, the difference in flavor is just incredible. Plus that there's no chemicals and they don't use hormones. And I believe that's part of your philosophy as well, or way you grow too at Productive Peasant. So share with us that this is, I mean, fairly recent, coming up out of the ground, and how you grow and why you grow what you do.
Okay. So I started the farm in 2021, finally got it off the ground, and it was a friend of mine was kind enough. He had some spare land, and so he let me get started. It was a little over a half acre. And I think I started growing like 15 or 20 different crops, and was selling them almost entirely wholesale to other farmers market vendors. The person that owned the land, he had a stand, still does have a stand at the West Shore Market. So he actually bought a lot of what I was growing, and then a couple vendors at the Lancaster Central Market, Lemon Street Market, and I had a couple specialty items that went to like the Horse Inn restaurant. And then I had a small CSA program, like 10 families signed up, and I limited it to 10. And then every week for, I think it was about 12 weeks, they got a box of fresh produce from like May 15th to August 15th or something like that. So that's how it got off the ground. And yeah, I was really intrigued by this idea that you could work on a really small scale with relatively low financial input. Because I came into this, I didn't have any money to put towards it, basically. Fortunately,
I like that phrase, low financial input. I like that.
Yeah.
That's another great way to say I started pretty lean.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
started very lean. There's a couple farmers out there that started getting kind of big on like their YouTube channels and making names for themselves in like 2015-ish. So right around the time I was getting really interested. One guy was Jean-Martin Fortier up in Quebec, and another guy was Curtis Stone, also up in Canada. He was on the in BC on the West Coast. And they were sharing a lot of information about how basically like Curtis Stone was taking a quarter acre, a third of an acre, and grossing like $100,000 a year. And they started his business on
wow.
like, I think he started the business 7 years prior. I mean, he didn't make that much money right off the bat, but
Right.
his whole operation started, he said, with $7,000. And he just DIY'd and bootstrapped his way into a very successful business. Jean-Martin Fortier kind of made his name by showing how a whole system basically could, if you had an acre or so of land, you could gross about $100,000. The differences between the two were that Curtis Stone was exclusively growing a very small number of very high value crops that were high dollars, so he could generate that kind of revenue on an even smaller scale. Jean-Martin Fortier's approach was more like mine, where it's like a whole wide variety, trying to be as much of a one-stop produce shop as you could reasonably be on a small piece of land. And so I was really like, I mean, partly out of necessity, but partly out of realizing it was like, okay, I don't need to go buy a 20-acre field, or I don't need to feel bad that I don't come from a family that owns a bunch of land that I can use. I don't have to worry that I'm going into this without too much experience and employees to help me. If we can stay on a small scale and everything is right there, it just seems very doable. And I like the idea of not using chemicals. I don't know. I mean, the research goes either way in terms of like, is it harmful for you to consume it or not? I mean, and I don't know that part of it's just because the inherent difficulties of like doing a nutrition study, like to basically make a definitive case, you'd have to get like 2,000 people to eat the exact same diet for at least a year. One of them, it would have to be like conventional, and one would have to be all chemical free. And I don't know how much money you'd have to pay 2,000 people to control their diet for an entire year, but it would probably be a lot. And they'd all have to have like the same baseline of health and just all. I mean, it would be almost impossible to really nail that down. But I thought, I'd rather be on the safe side, is one. And the other thing is, one thing that was really well shown by some research the USDA has done is that farmers who use chemicals are like, there's a statistically significant correlation between farmers who use chemicals and their family members coming down with things like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and other health problems. So even though in that study they didn't find a difference between eating organic or eating conventional, the people that were out there doing the work were having much higher incidences of health issues. And so it's like, well, that's enough for me too. I mean, because you can put whatever guidelines you want to on a bottle of pesticide and say you have to put on this suit and these gloves, and it's like, find me a farmer who has the time to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know a single farmer that's putting on a biohazard suit and then jumping out in the field. And they were a bit worried that when they saw it in the family members too, they said, well, it could be drifting. I don't put a lot of stock in that, because most farmers that would spray, whether it's chemical or not, you're not going to go do it when the wind is blowing and blowing your stuff all over the place, because then you're just wasting your time and your money.
Yeah, you're wasting product. Yep.
Right. And so what one idea they had was, it might be that the farmers are just bringing it into the house on their clothes, and then it's going in the wash. Maybe they're not doing the laundry. Maybe somebody else in the house is handling these things, or it's all getting lumped together in the laundry bin or whatever. And so I just thought, I guess I'd rather just be safe than sorry. I don't want to find out 20 years from now that something I've been using is causing people a problem. That happened with something called Thionex and thiodine or thiodin or something. I don't know if you're familiar with flea beetles at all. They're like a farmer's worst nightmare. They come out as soon as it hits about 65, 70 degrees, and they don't go away until like October. And they just eat little holes in a whole slew of crops. And they're really difficult to deal with, like especially organically. There was this wonderful chemical that just took care of it like that. And it was fairly cheap. And then, I don't know how many years it was on the market, but then I think it was like 2005 or something like that. Like there was like this global ban on it because they had found through research that the toxins were accumulating in mice's systems faster than they were able to get rid of it, either through urinating or sweating or just naturally metabolizing it. And so they thought, the mice's genomes are similar enough to humans that, this could be a huge problem for people. And I just thought, I don't want to be 20 years from now finding out I was, causing that, even if it was, good faith, practices. So that's why I went chem-free. And then I also had a really, I think it's really important to improve the land that you're on, not deplete it, and leave it better for the next person if there's going to be a next person. And so I don't till up the beds that we grow in. We use a lot of compost to try to build up the organic matter in the soil, so that the soil itself is healthier. Over time, that should translate into more nutrients in the soil for the crop itself. We also use customized fertilizer blends for every crop that we grow. So I have a fertilizer supplier. He probably hates me by now, but instead of calling him and saying, "Hey, I need fertilizer for a 100-acre cornfield," I call him and I say, "Okay, I have 900 square feet of carrots, 1,500 square feet of arugula, all the way down the list, and we grow about 40 different crops." And he makes me these small batches that are for each crop, and he can look at our soil test and say, "Okay, you're deficient in this, this, and this. So we need to make sure that's made up for in the blend." And then that way, when I go out into the field, I can go home at the end of the day and say, I have done everything I possibly can to make sure I'm growing a healthy product for whoever ends up consuming this, whether it's a CSA member that I'm dropping a box off at their doorstep, or it's, a customer going to like Luca and going out to restaurant, or the John Wright restaurant where, people expect to have a good meal. I don't have to, I know I put in my effort.
That's so wild. So even down to the you think about people, they spend a lot of time on the chemical makeup of their bodies, hormones, which actually, that's my sleep better tip later in the show. We understand the composition of ourselves, and we understand the composition of the food we eat, but do we understand the composition of where our food is grown? That's really interesting.
Of the soil itself. Yeah.
And I grew up in Canada, and I know, you brought up being exposed to cancers. As you said that, I'm like, there was a high amount of people that I know that had cancer, and this was flat, big factory farms, massive farms. And, the soil was always a problem, and the answer was there. Well, we grow this here this year, and then we move it over here the next year, and we bring this other thing in, and ultimately that just keeps it fertile as best could be. But they weren't they weren't taking this part to 900 square feet like you are with the fertilizer. That's really interesting.
Well, that's why I say my fertilizer guy must hate me, because like I get, with each bag I get, there's like a sheet that lists like the ingredients, and at the top it says like acres, and he's got to write like 0.013 or something. You know what I mean? Like he's sitting down doing all this math to figure out like how to come up with such small little batches for me. But God bless him. I mean, he does it, and I really appreciate it.
That's cool. Jason, I have a number of questions here. First, the bearded guy that we've been seeing in the photos, is he an employee?
The bearded guy is me. I'm just
Oh, the bearded
clean-shaven
guy is
right
you.
now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I get it. Do you have any employees? I knew that was him. Do you have any employees?
Not this year. For the last 2 years, I did have a great help. And then towards the end of last year, he ended up getting a job with a local school to be a teacher. It was really interesting because so the LNP had done a story on our farm back in its first year, and kind of like the plug was like the peasant with the PhD, and it was kind of like, what a weird journey, kind of. And so when I moved to Wrightsville, the farm size doubled, and I thought, it was getting to be spring, and I was like, I got to find some help somewhere, and out of the blue, I got this email from a guy, and he had just finished his PhD in geology, but he wasn't sure that he wanted to go into academics, and he really liked growing stuff, and he had come across the article in the LNP, and
doppelganger.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and he said, is there, can we talk about like how you made that transition, and so he came out to the farm, and we walked around and talked for like an hour, and I could tell he was into it. So I just said, do you want a job? and it,
That's awesome.
like that. And he worked there for 2 years and had a great time, but he did want to like try out teaching. And, the kind of bummer about a lot of folks in agriculture is that we don't make enough to provide like health benefits and things like that. And so, it made sense for him to go somewhere where he could get those things. So I was grateful for his time this year, because we just had our daughter, and I need to spend more time at home with her. My wife works outside of the house, and she'll be going back relatively soon. I needed to kind of scale down, and just so we still have the whole acre. It'll probably end up being like 2/3 to 3/4 of an acre. And then I've dropped like the farmers markets and things like that. And I'm just going to be doing like home delivery and selling to restaurants, and then the CSA program, which people can still sign up for over the next 2 weeks. Because that just cuts, we were spending 30 hours a week. I was spending 30 hours a week just at the farmers market last year, from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And it was like, okay, that's got to go. So we're kind of tightening up and trying to make things a little more efficient and manageable for me to do in the hours, the reduced hours that I have.
And that was the other question I wanted to ask. So you did the farmers markets, and you're not going to continue that this year, but I'm curious about the food delivery. That's cool. And also the CSA. I know you said you had 10 people initially. Has that program grown? Are you accepting people to buy into the CSA? And maybe for those who don't know what a CSA is, maybe explain a little bit about what that is.
Yeah. So kind of it loops back into the first thing we were talking about at the top of the interview. Farmers don't have much money in the spring because we don't have much to sell. All of our costs come in the spring. So we have seeds, plants, any repair, any supplies that need to be replaced. Your first quarter taxes are still due, and all sorts of expenses are right up front. And, like for us, for instance, we don't make our first sales until about late April. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, how do you navigate that challenge? And there's these community supported agriculture programs that have become wildly popular, where essentially kind of usually like January to March, people can sign up, and they sign up to get a box of produce delivered to their house every week during the farming season, but they're paying in advance. So let's say, I'm just spitballing, the customer gives us $300 for a 10-week program or whatever it is. we get that money in January, February, March when we really need it. And then to show our appreciation for that, we give them more than $300 worth of produce over the 10 weeks that they get those boxes, or at least that's the aim. Now, the programs come in different varieties, and some just would give you the strict $300. Some would give you way more. Some give you a little bit more. So they come in all sorts of different colors. But so yeah, that's still going on. It has grown. Last year we had 25 families, so that was really nice. And yeah, there's 2 weeks left to sign up for that. Just go to our website, and there's in the store. We have options. You can sign up for 8, 12, or 15 weeks. You can add on some fruit each week if you'd like to. We buy certified organic fruit to include. And then our boxes are actually built around a set of recipes. So you don't just get this like totally random assortment that the biggest complaints we heard about, or I heard about with CSAs before I started mine, was we get way too much kale and squash and we don't know what to do with the stuff. So my customers get kale 1 week, they get squash 1 or 2 weeks. And we kind of basically have a set of recipes. I look around in the field and I say, okay, next week, fennel and beets are going to be ready. And we've got some arugula. Okay. And I'll go and I'll start either searching for recipes that are new, or I'll take some that I'm familiar with. And then we build the box around like 3 recipes for the week. And then if there's an item that goes in those, like a produce item that goes in those recipes that I don't grow, I'll buy it from another local farmer who does grow it. And then send out those recipes a couple days in advance. It lets you know what's coming in the box, the recipes, and then what you would need to go buy at the store if you wanted to make those recipes. So if the recipe calls for like oil, meat, cheese, something like that, spices, you can go out and get those things and then make those. But at the same time, like the boxes are like, what you get is flexible enough where you're never like, you don't have to make the recipes. It's just if you want some ideas, but you can play around with it to your heart's content.
Great idea.
Yeah, so that's the CSA, and then we do home delivery every week except for next week because I'm on vacation going up to bring our daughter to meet her grandparents finally. But yeah, we have an online store, and you can go to that, and everything we have available for a week. It's not going to show right now because we took all the items off, so people didn't start ordering for next week. But later next week, the store will be repopulated with all of the items that we sell. And then as long as we get the order by Sunday night, and you're within a certain set of zip codes that we deliver to, you'll get the produce brought right to your door either on a Wednesday evening or a Friday evening, depending on which zip code you're in. And that runs all year. Yeah. And then we do some restaurant sales as well. So.
And this CSA box, you mail those out as well? Ship those out?
We deliver them right to the door.
Or deliver, yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Yep. So
okay,
either Wednesday or Friday evening. Try to do it in the evening so that it's not the hottest part of the day in case you're out of the house at work or something. Right. You don't come home to like bags of melted salad. And then yeah, we just go straight to your door and drop off a box.
That's cool.
And that's it. Yeah.
We were part of a CSA down in Millersville, the Goodwill Farm. I'm sure you're familiar with the Goodwill Farm down there.
I have heard.
We lived right around the corner from it years ago, but now we're like half an hour away, and we'd love to be part of it again, but we have to go get it. And Millersville, great community to visit, but it's inconvenient being half an hour away. So that's cool that you offer the service to drop it off, because I'm sure there's a ton of people like us who would want to be part of a CSA, but can't for logistic purposes.
I'm sure there's even more than a ton of people that don't know things like this exist.
100%.
Yeah. And it has become more and more common with small farms, just for the simple reason that, you've got that kind of cash crunch a lot of the times in the winter months. And, unfortunately, like some farmers kind of make it harder for those of us who want to do this, because yeah, I mentioned some people say I get too much kale and too much squash, and unfortunately, some farmers kind of use it as a way to offload whatever they're overproducing,
Mm-hmm.
and so that it was a pretty frequent complaint that I heard from people who had been parts of different CSAs. Are like, well, I mean, I send them $400 in February, and then I don't get anything for 3 months, and then all of a sudden I'm just like inundated in potatoes and onions, and I don't know what to, it's like doesn't really like I don't need 20 pounds of potatoes a week.
Right.
And so I just, if anyone's watching, they've tried it and had a bad experience, I'd say, try somewhere else. Don't give up if you're really interested in it.
Well, on that note, I mean, I think the thing to take away is you're not really overgrowing anything on 1 acre to 3/4 of an acre with the spread. We had your ingredients, or not your ingredients, your produce list up on the screen. Maybe we could get that up again, but there's a pretty wide variety that I saw at first glance there on the screen. So yeah, I would just challenge anybody to think about this who's thinking of it. Try something fresh for the spring, for the summer. Here's the ingredients list. So it's nearly impossible to overgrow and over deliver. You'll over deliver on the value, not over deliver on the kale. Which
nobody wants extra kale.
Ben tried to bring that vile weed into this space a few years back, and it's like, get that out of here. Even deep fat frying it wasn't good.
I honestly, I'm not a fan of kale. I'm really not. But it's it's a healthy item. So and some people really love it. I've had customers that would buy 2 or 3 bunches every single week, and hey, I'm happy they found something they like, because right. Yeah. So
that was my Seinfeld reference. I'm gonna try to slip a Seinfeld reference into each episode from here on out.
It's worthwhile endeavor.
I got the vile weed one in there.
Yes,
from when Newman tried to eat the broccoli.
Yeah,
that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, it was a good show. Good one. Good episode. So what's next? I mean, you're farming this 1 acre. Which, by the way, farming an acre or so, or a little less, a little more, you don't have a lot of expense for tractors and things like that. Is it largely by hand?
It's almost entirely.
Yeah.
I mean, we have so I do a lot of like salad greens, and there's something called the quick cut greens harvester that is, it basically, if you were to, let me put it this way. The farm is kind of like a 1 acre garden. It's there are 85 growing beds that are 2.5 feet wide by 100 feet long. And then there's like 15 to 16 inch pathways in between. And so everything is really tight, like really, really tight. So you pack a ton into that 1 acre.
Yep.
The salad greens we're able to usually harvest with this quick cut greens harvester that, if we were down on our hands and knees cutting by hand, a 100-foot bed would take 3 people, I don't know, 3 hours or something like that, probably. I can do it myself in 15 minutes. So that helps a lot. But no, I mean, the most mechanical thing I have is a rototiller, and I just use that for like the pathways to keep the grass down. And like I have a weed eater, but it's very low tech. If you had a tractor, then you would have to leave room to turn around and drive around. And so all of a sudden, like say you only have 1 acre to work with, you've cut 10 feet off on one end and 10 feet on the other. And I can't remember, I had figured out just 10 feet on either end of the farm. If I had gotten rid of that to get a tractor in there, I think it was like losing like $4,000 in sales a year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or
it's an expensive tractor.
Right. It's, in addition to the cost of the tractor itself and the maintenance and all that stuff, it's like you grow less. Now, if you have 20 acres to play with, then of course you're going to have a tractor. If you have 5 acres, you probably have a tractor. But doing it this way just allows me to keep everything right there. And it's so nice if you're working with other people. You don't have to run around tracking them down. You just holler at them. Or
over there.
We're used to use walkie-talkies. That was kind of nice. And if I want to do like a crop walk in the morning, every Monday morning, the first thing I would do is get there and just walk around and see if any problems have developed over the weekend or something like that. And take me 15 minutes, to walk and I can see everything on the farm in that amount of time. And that's even if the farm itself is completely planted and full. So there's just a huge increase in efficiency and convenience, and makes the job a little easier.
Such a spectrum of farming. I have a cousin in Saskatchewan who works for a large factory farm. He goes to his farm in his khakis and polo shirt and sits at like a DEFCON 5 command center, and all the satellite connected combines and harvesters and equipment that go out and drive and are automated and drive like they're driverless combines. Mm-hmm. And he sits there and does them, and he gets flown all over the world to consult with Case Ferguson. So there's that farmer I know, and now there's you as a farmer.
And believe me, there's times where I would love to be one of those guys. I mean, when it's at the little plot that I rent, the landowner has something like 30 odd acres. And so I have my one little acre, and then right next to it is 18 acres that is rented out to a hay farmer. And so it'll be like the end of August and my back is broken and it's 6 o'clock at night and I've been there for 12 hours and I'm sweating and I'm just like, still got 2 more hours of work to do. And he just comes breezing in his tractor and mows the entire 18 acres in a matter of like 1 to 2 hours. And I'm, I've made it like halfway down one of my 100-foot beds in the amount of time. And I'm just like, he's got air conditioning there and everything, like, what am I doing? But at the end of the day,
what you do is more rewarding for sure.
I think so. I mean, I for me, it definitely is. I mean, I'm someone who needs like a lot of, I can't really do like one thing and be content. Like I just get bored very quickly. So like having all these different crops and things cycling in and out throughout the year is keeps it kind of fresh for me. And I do like just kind of being right down at the ground level, kind of getting my hands and feet dirty and just being up close with everything. So that I get a lot out of that. So
very cool.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So for people who want to learn more and connect, I mean, we've had your website on the screen, but I guess we go to productivepeasant.com is the website. Your social medias we've had on Instagram. You've got an Instagram, Productive Peasant Farm company. You've got that. Go to the website. You can check out the CSA program, which is a very cool thing to really kind of deposit back into your community. I mean, if you love green space, that's a good program to do it because that means your local farmers are going to be around. Productive Peasant being one of them. You've got the home delivery box program, which is great. I'd imagine that might become a family affair some nights. So maybe that little sprout Clara makes an appearance when they drop the box off. Or maybe not. I might be speaking out of turn here.
No. I as soon as I can get her out there and driving around with me. I mean, I love being with her. So the more more time I get to spend with her, the happier I am. So and she likes car rides. And she can be. It can be one of those days where you can never understand how to calm her down, and then as soon as you put her in a car seat, just go for a little drive. She's
go make a produce box delivery with Dad, and all those right with the world.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, we've enjoyed having you here on the show. Productive Peasant. Yeah, productivepeasant.com is the place to go and connect with the farm, connect with Jason. You're hearing the person growing your produce, which is always nice to know if you really want that kind of an experience with your food, more flavorful food and great tasting produce and food. So, Jason, thank you for taking the time with us.
Too.
That's right.
That's true.
Because we are able to work one-on-one. So, but Jeff, Ben, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it very, very much. And I appreciate you taking an episode to celebrate National Agriculture Day and bringing attention to the local agricultural scene.
Yeah. One last question for you. We'll kind of shorten our connection cocktail moment, but I think we'd be remiss to not ask how you're celebrating yourself. National Agriculture Day, which is tomorrow, the 19th.
Tomorrow, we are driving up to New York to bring Clara to meet her meet my parents for the first time.
Okay.
So
Very
we're going to
good.
go up there for a few days, and because there's going to be cold weather here, there's not much for me to do
Yeah.
this coming week. So
Yep.
just going to have a nice little break for the rest of the week, and make the most of it with family.
That's cool.
Very
Safe
good.
drives, safe travels.
Very good. Thank you again for joining us, Jason. Appreciate it. Have a
thank
great
you.
day.
You
Thank
do
you.
the same.
Well, there you go. That was a really good insight into some food in your backyard.
The fertilizer thing blew me away. I mean, it makes sense. You have different crops, and they probably require different things. But yeah,
does.
fertilizer, right? Like, I don't know any different.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, like 40 different crops, 40 different types of fertilizer.
Yeah,
That's neat.
yeah. It's how you get those carrots a nice orange and the greens a nice shade of green, representative of the green you need or want.
Juicy tomatoes.
Juicy vine ripe tomatoes.
I thought the avocado tip was pretty cool too. Like
Putting it
if
with a banana.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, maybe they could power vehicles with banana gas. We might have just, I mean,
We might
Jason
have
might
just
be a
solved the
billionaire
world.
soon.
You might have just solved the world's problem. Where I took the banana gas avocados is that you're gonna see in some fancy cafe, you're gonna see that on a menu item, and the avocado toast is now $2 more because it was banana gassed avocados, and you'll have some people say, "Oh yeah, man, I just can't eat regular avocado toast. It has to be
the
banana gassed avocado."
That's
So,
that's pretty good.
Anyway, but really cool. I like avocados.
I've become more of a fan of an avocado, yes, and of course,
You appreciate
avocados make. I know what you're going to say. Avocados make guacamole, and that's yes.
Yeah, guacamole's good. So you're coming to appreciate avocados for what they are.
For what they are.
I don't know.
Story for another day.
That's a story for another Lancaster Connects episode, but it's a great one. It really is a great one, and it relates to produce in a way.
Yeah,
Fermented produce. So
yes.
I will give you my sleep better tip. It's a pretty simple one, and so the reality is you probably have some teenagers at home if you're listening. Maybe not in your home, but maybe in your children's home or a peer to you if you're a young Lancaster Connects listener. But our teenagers today have a sleeplessness epidemic. They're underslept, underrested, over grumpy, over hormonal. Some might say out of balance, out of whack. Maybe they have an attitude, need an attitude adjustment. And so sleep and lack of sleep can be a big part of that. Sleep is one of these things. We always look for the magic pills in life. Magic pill to lose weight, magic pill to have more brain focus, all this stuff. And we've got this natural prescription every night. If we get a good amount of sleep, depending upon your needs, which we talk about in our Sleep Better book, what that can look like, the amount you should allot to sleep. But sleeping well and getting better sleep can help restore those hormonal balances. So if you got a grumpy teenager, give them a little dose of getting more sleep. Take that electronic device away in the bedroom, and just have them focus on getting some rest. And you won't have to give them pills. You won't have to take them to the doctor as much. They'll be a little more balanced, a little less grumpy. That's my Sleep Better tip. We'll mail you the book. You can request it at gardnersmattressandmore.com/sleep-better.
Yeah, that's a great point, great tip there. I think kids nowadays have so much. I feel like they do so much more, have so much more on their plate than when we were growing up. More organizations to be involved in, more sports, more school functions.
I mean, I think it's
homework. They're just kind of overwhelmed.
There is more. Our society's given us more, but there's always the agency to say no.
Very true too.
There's no one making you pick up the phone. At least not outwardly. Maybe the psychology of it all is there to make you want to pick it up, but there's also benefit in acknowledging that. So yeah, I mean, if you focus on sleep, you'll feel better. Pretty simple.
Got a handwritten testimonial here for Gardner's Mattress and More. This is from Vicky. A couple points from hers. She mentioned our online quiz and education online. She appreciated the education in the confusing world of modern mattresses. So this is a person that knew there's new beds and wanted to get educated on what they are. And she really loves that it's a locally owned business that also has old-fashioned. She didn't describe old-fashioned style, but she means flippable, two-sided beds. And after her last online purchase, she wanted to buy local. So she's never going to go back online, she writes here. So it sounds like that first mattress that was bought online sight unseen didn't work. So she needed to be educated. She appreciated the fact that we had old-fashioned two-sided flippable mattresses, and sounds like we've got a customer for life.
That's right. I was going to say, beware of the people on the screen telling you what to buy, but we are the people on the screen telling you what to buy.
Very true.
Right. I guess it goes like kind of like our guest today. Source is everything, right?
Yeah.
Source of your vegetables and produce is important. Source of your sleep information is important. Source of your mattress buying information is important. And we'd love to be that source for you. So if we can help you with that next mattress purchase, if we can help you wake up happier, sleep better, we'll send you our book. If you just have a question, we're here. You can call to end where we started. You can call or text us at 717-299-6228, and we'll answer those sleep and mattress-related questions. And maybe with a little bit of Jason's education, some produce-related questions, like how best to ripen your avocados with just 2 simple ingredients. That's a great internet, like, clickbait title.
A paper bag and a banana.
That's right. Get that banana gassed avocado.
I wonder what else you can better ripen.
With gas?
With banana gas.
We're doing all the banter after.
Just try random things.
Yeah, that's
I
funny.
wonder what happens when I put this thing in a bag with the banana.
That's funny. I love it. Banana gas. That's a good band name. On that note, thank you for tuning in. I love the conversation we had with Jason Stone. Please check out theproductivepeasant.com. Great farm here in our community, helping you get great, healthy produce to your table. And he'll deliver it to you, productivepeasant.com. Go check it out. We'll see you next week on Lancaster Connects. Take care.